Greetings, my friend, and welcome to the next episode in the Red Delta Project podcast. Today's episode, I'm sharing with you my best answers to the top 5 questions that I often get regarding push-up training. If you're watching this on YouTube, I left down below in the description all of the questions along with their timestamps. So if you want to jump ahead to the questions that are important to you, you'll find them down below in the description. All right, question number 1, can you really build muscle and strength with push-ups? Simple answer is yes. And I know a lot of people will say things like, well, yeah, resistance is resistance, but that's not entirely quite correct on why it's possible. The reason is because, as my old chemistry teacher back in high school taught us, if you want to understand how an animal or an organism is adapting to an external stimulus, you have to look at what's going on the cellular level. Be like Ant-Man in his suit. You go down to the cellular level, that's what's actually producing a given result to an external stimulus. So when we're looking at resistance, yes, that is a stimulus, but I mean, you could run a tractor over your arm. That's not gonna make your arm bigger, even though it's a ton of resistance on it. Instead of thinking of it as resistance, we want to look at something that I just call muscle tension, which is essentially just the contractile force of your muscle fibers when they're contracted. Because on a cellular level, your muscles only have 2 settings. They've got on and off. And actually they have one more, which is how long are they on. They know time and they know how long they're producing that contractile tension. That's it. In our fitness culture, we often mistake correlation with causation. Your causation, what causes a muscle to get bigger and stronger, is it's being told to contract more of the fibers, produce more tension for a longer period of time. That's what actually causes you to get bigger and stronger. But your neighbor down the street was like, dude, I did P90X and look, now I'm big and jacked and ripped. And we mistakenly think he's that way because of P90X. But that was just the vehicle he used to produce that muscle tension. And push-ups are just the vehicle. So in a way, like, can you get bigger and stronger with push-ups? Yes, but you're not gonna get bigger and stronger because of push-ups. You're getting bigger and stronger because of muscle tension. And you're using push-ups as the vehicle to do that. Second question is, okay, so what level of progression push-up should I be on? Which is really good because we don't want to address our body weight training in a very one-dimensional approach. A lot of times the biggest mistake people do when they start doing bodyweight training is they get caught in what I call that calisthenics rut. There's a video up here if you want to learn more. But basically where we're just addressing our exercise in one technique, like there's one way of doing push-ups. But we progress the amount of resistance, which influences your muscle tension, based on what level of technique we're using. But if you're always using the same technique, that's like going into the gym and only benching 135 all the time. And you never change the weight to either heavier or lighter. So it's either going to be too heavy or it's going to be too light, and it's going to fail to influence the stimulus to produce the tension you need for the results you want. So you want to have that progressive theory down. So the first step is you want to make sure you're using a progressive system. So either convict conditioning, which has 10 steps of progression. There's my grind style calisthenics, which has 6, but you want to have some sort of a plan where it's like, this is level 1, this is level 2, and it gets progressively harder. So then what you do is you start on level 1, see what happens. The only way you're going to know this is through experience and trial and error. So start at level 1, the easiest one, and just give it a shot for a workout or 2 and see what happens. Now you're going to know real quick. It's like either it's, oh, that's way too hard, or oh, that's too easy and stuff, because we're looking for a stimulus. We want to work our muscles hard enough to tell that tension to really ramp up for a good amount of time and make our muscles work hard. How hard? Well, it depends on your goal. But always remember, the simplest way to think about this is you gain that which you challenge. So if you want to gain strength, challenge strength. Make your muscles produce more strength. If you want to challenge endurance, challenge endurance. If you want to build muscle, just challenge everything and make sure they're working to a high level of fatigue. So that's what you're aiming for. But if you have trouble doing that at level 1, okay, good, now you know. Now you go up to level 2 and you just keep working your way up. And eventually, and you can do this however you want, but eventually you get to that point where you're like, oh yeah, now that's really working. Boom, that's where you should be. And that's how you get dialed into your level of progression. Third question is, I got joint pain. That's in my wrist, my elbow, shoulder, whatever, right? What do I do about this? Well, the first thing you always want to do is see a doctor or a physical therapist or someone hands-on. Because, big surprise, the internet is a horrifically bad place to get any sort of diagnosis on what's going on with you physically. And there could be 20 million reasons why your shoulder is in pain? I don't know. If I give you an answer, know that it is a just straight up random guess. There's nothing else to it. It's that simple. So your guess is as good as mine. I don't like to guess with these sorts of things because if you guess wrong, you're even in worse case scenario than you were before when you were ignorant. However, I will say in general that when we have pain or discomfort in a joint, what's going on is something about your technique is typically off, unless something is physically wrong with it. Like if you, I broke my wrist, well, okay, that's why you have joint pain. But unless there's a structural challenge or structural break in the actual joint, like a torn labrum or something, something's probably off in your technique. Something isn't quite turning on and there's a misalignment somewhere. Generally what happens, and I got to credit Chris C. for mentioning this in the comments yesterday, which is brilliant, is the best way we want to do any of our exercises, especially push-ups, is we want to put our joints in a mechanically advantageous position and our muscles in a mechanically disadvantageous position. So that way the stress is in the muscle, and so that you're creating a stimulus. But if there's pain in a joint, chances are very good that what you're doing is you're just somehow creating a mechanically disadvantageous position for your joint in an effort to create subconsciously, often, a mechanically advantageous position for your muscles. And essentially you're trying to make the exercise a little bit easier. But unfortunately what that means is you're stressing your joints, not your muscles. And that's the opposite of what we want to go after. So think about how you can oftentimes make the exercise harder. And oftentimes, the best way to do that is to keep things in tighter and closer. Check out my video on scapular rotation. That helps a lot to create more of a stable environment for your joints, but it makes your muscles work a lot harder and keeping things in closer. Fourth question is, how many sets and reps should I be doing to create the stimulus I want if I want to build muscle or strength and so on? And this is kind of going about it a little bit wrong because, again, we get down to that cellular level, there's no numbers down there. They don't know, muscles don't know reps. They don't know sets. It's not like you're doing push-ups and your muscles are like, all right, whatever. Okay, he's up to 8 reps. Okay, he's going, oh, he hit 12 repetitions, time to get bigger. That's not how exercise works. Instead, what we want to recognize is that what makes your muscles change is that progressive stimulus. So you basically took whatever you did before and you say, now step it up. Advance it, progress it, make the muscle produce more tension or more, the same amount of tension for more time, or maybe even a combination of the two. That's what actually makes your muscles change. There's no secret combination of like 32 reps left, 18 reps right kind of thing. That's not how exercise actually works. It's what is progressive from what you had before. And that's why I created my table of progressive elements in smart bodyweight training. There's 9 different ways you can advance the tension in your muscles. 9. So it's way more than just weight and reps that you can work with. But as long as you're progressing that muscular tension and your functional ability, that's what stimulates you. Now, is that more sets, more reps and stuff? Yeah, to a degree. But always remember that you just can't keep adding more to it. You know, eventually you get more and more and more, and you're just working harder to produce the same result. So always make sure that your progression is more along the lines of not just am I doing more, but am I doing better? Am I making my muscles step up to a higher level? You do that, you're going to get bigger and stronger regardless of what kind of workout format you're using. I don't care if it's full body, split routine, you work out twice a week, 3 times a week, does not matter. If your muscles are getting that stimulus to step up and work to a higher level, they will change and adapt to the response that you are giving them. And then finally, the 5th question is, should I be doing more? I think this one's always in the back of the head, especially for a lot of people who are really hungry for results. Like, shouldn't I do more sets and reps? And I'm working out twice a week. Should it be 3 times a week? And so on. We want to recognize that doing more may produce more of a stimulus. It might. But that stimulus only helps you get results if you can also give yourself the ability to adapt to that stimulus. Stimulus without adaptation is still nothing. You still get nothing for it. And exercise only creates that stimulus. You need to give your muscles the time to adapt with good sleep, good diet, low stress levels, all that sort of thing. It's kind of like if you've ever been in a situation in the office where you've got this big project to do, but you just keep getting called into meetings all day long and you never have time to work on the actual darn project. That's exactly what happens to your body when you just keep working out over and over and over and you never give it the chance to adapt. You keep feeding instructions and you're like, will you just shut up and let me actually build something here? It's the same exact thing. So you might be better with more. And probably the only way to figure it out is to just give it a try and see what happens. But what you're looking for is when you're working out, you want to be able to get your muscles to step up. If you're down and you're doing a workout and you're like, well, I got to do these push-ups today because I got to do 100 push-ups like every other day or whatever your program is, and you're down there and you're just struggling through it and you just barely get through the workout, you're probably not creating much of a progressive stimulus with that. But if you've given yourself time and rest and everything, and you get down and you're like, oh yeah, cranking it out, and it really feels good, and you've stepped up somehow, right? Better technique, maybe a little more range of motion, whatever, then you've got that stimulus. It's the stimulus that's important. And your ability, or should you be doing more? Only if you can continue to produce a progressive stimulus. If you can't produce a more progressive stimulus, then more work doesn't help you. In fact, it probably is holding you back. So thank you very much for listening. Don't forget, check out my book, Smart Bodyweight Training, Grind Style Calisthenics. Leave further questions for further episodes down below. Next week, I'm going to be addressing the best questions I get regarding pull-up training as well. Thanks again for watching. Be fit, live free.